Hi, this video is about the cycles that shape your destiny. So we have one life to live that we're focused on. And when you're born, you come in with a blueprint and a map, and your soul is really excited for you to grow, expand, excavate, um, take on opportunities, face fears. And so in the cycles of astrology, we get that opportunity with the transit. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about the cycles that we go through, um, the transits that we have that activate moments of crystallization and growth in our destiny. So this is a really exciting topic for me because um, I'm a professional intuitive and I use astrology as a way to understand how we're wired, what the messages are coming from the soul to be, it's like having a blueprint. The soul has a blueprint and the life is a 3D. This is where we get to put the sculpture up in front of us and really experience what it's like to create that and see and we're the creation. Okay, so let's start with we have many cycles, but these cycles really impact us in longer. They have they carve us through life. They carve us. They influence us much more deeply, than the cycles of the sun and the moon. Like every month, the sun is in a certain sign. We have the sun in a certain part of our chart and it lights up consciousness in that particular area. Then next month, we'll have a new astrological sun sign and that will light up another place of awareness. The moon cycles, every 2.5 days approximately. So depending on your chart, you'll feel the influence of the current moon transit, depending on whether it's squaring you, whether it's activating something that's natural for you, whether it's a trining you. So we have all of these cycles that influence um, our perception of life. So the first planet that I want to talk about is Saturn. And Saturn is the archetypal planet of reality, what's real, um, how long it takes to get from point A to point B, um, how tired you get at the end of the day, how much energy, and mostly how much time you have, because Saturn is the planet, is Father Time. And for that reason, Saturn can feel like it gives us hard lessons. Like say we're a high-spirited, enthusiastic soul and we come in, we're going to have to face reality at some point. And that means that things are finite in the physical world. We're going to have to face finite uh, measurements of time, energy, space, physicality, how many people can fit in a car at one time. And there are always going to be people who push against the lessons of Saturn, but Saturn is really here to create your masterpiece through you. It's a crystallizer because it teaches us to say, this, not this. This, not this. It teaches us to make important choices. And so it's a really powerful teacher. Um, so Saturn, we get a lesson from Saturn every 7 years. When you are 7 years old, and as I talk about this, it might be fun for you to reflect on your own life. So when you are 7, you're going to have this internal awareness that you are in a physical body and that you are like you're in school and there are assignments that you have to do and life is getting real. Like it's not just imaginary and your parents taking care of everything. So when you're 7, that's the first time that Saturn is really going to ping you. And every 7 years, age 7, 14, 21, 28, you're going to get this like, ooh, ouch. ooh, this is real. And in some spiritual disciplines, it's said that a child does not fully incarnate before the age of 7. And I find that very interesting because 7, when Saturn is basically squaring you, you're going to feel like your feet on the ground and life is real. And so just reflect back to what happened around the time you were 7. Did you begin to have more of an idea that you could create something in the world? Because this could be possible, that this is when you realize, you study something in school, you write up an assignment, you hand it in, and you get a grade. That's very Saturnian. Then when you're 14, and I always think of 14 as the time when we're entering high school. And so you have a whole new set of guidelines, rules, regulations. And at first you feel one thing about Saturn is every time it pings you, you feel like a failure. And I want you to know this so that you can use these cycles when you look at the things that you're struggling with right now, because chances are that you're just trying to get better at something right now. It's not that you're failing, but Saturn makes you feel like a failure. It kind of lowers your self-confidence. It makes you feel like it's kind of like in school when you learned how to, I don't know, jump rope, and then you were around some bigger kids around the block and they're like, we've all jumped rope. Do you know how to hopscotch? And so it becomes this thing where you're like, oh, I mastered this, but I'm such a beginner at this. And that is how Saturn helps us get better and better at crystallizing who we are in life. Now, when you're 28, you have your first Saturn return, and this is a really important juncture for most people. Often you do something that shows who you are as an individual, separate from how you grew up and separate from your parents. So if you can reflect when you were 28 and what you did that was like, I've got to break free. It's not so much I've got to break free. It's that life offers you an opportunity at that stage, and sometimes it's hard. Saturn returns are actually quite hard, especially the first one, where you just feel like you have to be a grown-up, but you don't totally know how. But you learn and you grow. And then you have another square sometime like in your around 35, between 35 and 36, and you're like, oh my God, what am I doing? Am I building anything? Is anything crystallizing that I really wanted? And you get another reset and a refocus. And a really important period is, so it takes about almost 30 years for Saturn to do its full circle and come back to the place where you were born. That's the return. And so it does it again when you're 58. And it will do it again when you are 88, if you live long enough. And I know somebody who's going through their third Saturn return. Your second Saturn return, when you are between 58 and 60, is predictably where you realize I'm almost out of time. I have less time than I thought I had. You look at the body of work and crystallization, how much of the sculpture have you built up until that point, and you kind of come to terms with your life as you've created it. And you realize, wow, I have a little bit more to go, but I've lived a lot of my life. And what have I lived? And that just know that the Saturn return can be a time where you feel kind of lonely, kind of alone, because it's almost like you're born alone, you die alone, and you have your Saturn return alone. It really feels like a time when you're being tested externally and internally, depending on the placement of your Saturn, depending on what you most need to grow. Sometimes people need more from the outside to happen for them to grow and change and turn into the beautiful sculpture that they're meant to be. And other people, they need the internal discipline. Like they don't need it from the outside so much. So their outside might not change as much, but their inside is really pinging like, oh my God, I feel so serious and I feel so somber and I feel slow. Oh, things are so slow. Why is it so hard for me to get from point A to point B? Because Saturn makes you really slow down. It makes you focus. It makes you more aware of where you haven't grown and where you need to grow. So again, that self-confidence issue can come up during the Saturn returns. But at the end of the Saturn return, you start to it's like after everything has rained and pummeled you and the storm has come and gone and suddenly there's a new petal on your flower. Your flower is blooming more than before because you're much wiser. Saturn is just it really can create a wiser perspective. Um, The next planet I want to talk about is Uranus. Now, this is the archetypal planet of freedom and inspiration. And Uranus is the planet that when it transits us, its cycle is like 19 years. So you get the first Uranus square around 21, 22. A lot of people feel like they want to get away and try something totally new. Like, I'm going to drive over to this state, or I'm going to fly over here, or I'm going to go to Europe, or I'm going to go somewhere very different to a different continent and just see what it's like. So it's this bolt of lightning that's the unexpected that pushes us um, through unexpected urges and occurrences. It can be from the inside or the outside, like I suddenly want to do this. I suddenly want to travel somewhere and climb mountains, or I suddenly want to go back to school, or whatever it is. But it's to get you out of your comfort zone. It's very unfamiliar. It's like this electricity that comes from your spirit waking you up. Like, remember the human lifespan is approximately 80 years. So you've got to use it well and make sure you're blending enough tradition with growth and spontaneity. So an important transit for Uranus is around age 41, 42 in there because so that is traditionally when we describe having our midlife crisis. And a lot of people will leave a marriage or leave a job or change their lives and just turn things really upside down, make a move, an important move. And that is because Uranus is speaking to their Uranus natally. It's a transit where they're getting a jolt that's waking them up and saying, "Are you sure? You're 41, you're 42. You better get going, girl." So this is like I remember that I made a major move across states at that age, and yeah, I just and started to do something totally different. So think about this for yourself. The other ages for that are 63. And so 63 may be a time when you're like, you know what, I need to have more fun. And I need to have more fun spontaneously and maybe travel because Uranus often makes people want to move. Like it's just very electrical. And then also 84. So if you're 84 or close to that, watch out because you might have something very exciting coming through you. You might want to write a book about your life at 84. I think Uranus always wants to electrify your life with higher inspirational information. It's like the higher octave functioning of the planet Mercury in our chart, which is really about the mechanics of thinking. Like, what do I need to do today? Here's my list. Okay, A plus B equals C. It's very sort of mechanical and it's rational, logical, and gathering the information and putting something together and putting the puzzle pieces together to fit a picture that makes sense to you. Well, Uranus doesn't really make sense. It's like the intuitive lightning bolt that just comes down and gets you and teaches you to not be so afraid to get out of your comfort zone and to do something new because your legacy may involve some change. Okay, Jupiter. Jupiter is the archetypal planet of wisdom and blessings. So Jupiter is a 12-year cycle. So you're going to look at 12, age 24, age 36, age 48, 60, 71, 82 are the returns. So it's the planet of wisdom and blessings. And Jupiter, when we have Jupiter come in every 12 years, I always think of Jupiter as kind of like a layered wedding cake, like that you get the first good layer, and then the next 12 years you get another layer on top that's a little bit higher, a little bit more. So it's never exactly the same because you've changed and you're not the same. Um, Jupiter is a blessing, jovial. Sometimes it's over the top, like you'll get just your life will suddenly expand, especially if Jupiter's on one of your planets or on your rising sign. You'll find that your life is just full of new people that just bring you into an expansive state or experiences that bring you into an expansive state because um, it's uh, Jupiter is just, it's really about enjoyment as much as Venus is in your chart. And Jupiter suggests that as you bring in more higher wisdom and start to understand the universe and yourself and your life experiences, that you can become more generous yourself and more wise and embody that energy too. So, and that feels good. That feels good to your soul because you came here to care and you came here to give and you're a gift. And so Jupiter agrees with that. And so when you get the Jupiter return, that's how you feel. You feel like that part of yourself that's just jovial and expansive and just a great big angel. Um, I wanted to just read a quote from Elizabeth Spring. And this is about Uranus, actually. Uranian transits have the aha qualities of synchronicity, grace, and the inevitable mark of fate. It's like it's easy to accept a Jupiter transit every 12 years, but the Uranus transits that happen, think about, when you're early 20s and then early 40s, they take a little bit of courage, but if you can push through and really understand this is a part of your architecture, this is a part of your support team, this is an energy that wants to come through you, it will help you really be innovative too, if in case you feel stuck. The Jupiter transits are wonderful for helping you enjoy your life more, but the Uranus transits are really great for reminding you that you are never stuck and that being unstuck is just a decision or a choice point to be out of the box that you've been in. Does that make sense? Um, I think the last planet that I want to talk about that really helps to crystallize who you are. And there's more to this, but I feel like I don't want to do too long of a video on this, is Chiron. So Chiron in the chart is the wounded healer. We each have Chiron somewhere in an area of our life, in a sign that tells you the quality of your wound. Now, what I've said here is it's a perceived wound and it's a mastery because the myth of Chiron is that he was a master healer and then he was wounded and his wound would never he could never heal his own wound, but other creatures and other beings came to him for his mastery of being able to teach them how to heal. So depending on what sign and where in your chart you have Chiron, that will be a place where you feel like you limp a little bit all the time, where no matter how hard you try, you're like, God, that's so hard for me. And sometimes you're not even aware of what this is. It can take years to be aware, like it's very formative for each of us. Our Chiron is right there, and you can often see it in another person, but in ourselves, sometimes it's hard to see where we feel the core wound really is, where we feel like we're not enough. We feel broken. We feel handicapped in life in that area. So we go through life, and when we approach the age of 50, that's when we have our Chiron return. And the Chiron return is a moment that's a little bit ouchy for most people. It hurts because Chiron hurts. It hurts. It's like a wound. And we will feel like, oh my God, I thought I had dealt with this. And here it is again. And I'm 50 years old. How did this happen? And that, but it's a very special transit because as you go through it and out the other side, it kind of reminds me a little bit of the Saturn transits, to be honest, because you feel alone in it. You feel alone in your pain. You feel like nobody can solve this and you've tried for 50 years and it hasn't worked and you're still having issues in that sector of your life, whether it's relationships, career, friends, home life, your inner emotions, feeling abandoned, wanting to be, romantically successful. Or something with money. It doesn't matter where it is, or it could even be physical body issues. So what happens is as you go through, 50, 51, 52, and you come out the other side, you've faced the worst possible thing, which is you've looked your handicap, your perceived handicap in the face, and you've accepted yourself. And with that, a whole lot of love comes into you that wasn't there before because you were withholding it. You're like, I can't figure this one part of the puzzle out. I don't like it. I do not like this. And what happens is you accept it. And not only that, you start to take a point of view that's almost like you were a mosaic. You take all the little broken pieces and you put them together into something just gorgeous. And you realize that there was nothing ever wrong from the beginning. And then feel empowered to begin to have the wisdom of an older person who can then guide other people, whether it's just very casually in just casual conversations, when somebody younger says, "Yeah, but I'm really bad at this," and you're like, "Mm-hmm, mm-hmm," and you hold space for that person. Or you may teach, or you may write a book about the wound, or you may have, begin doing financial advising for people who can't manage their money. You see, it all, what I love about these transits and how they help us form is there's nothing better or worse. There are planets that are more dignified and in more detriment. Sometimes you come in with, fully loaded obstacle course, and other people, they do have easier lives on the outside. But never judge anyone's life or your life because you are wired just beautifully to to face the fears, the obstacles, and the challenges and grow through them into something very beautiful that you can be proud of. And you can be proud at the beginning, you can be proud in the middle, or you can be proud at the end. And you will notice and you will track the growth. It's been really interesting with the person that I know who's gone through the third Saturn return and is almost 90, the growth that I have witnessed through having conversations with this person, it's just spectacular. So it never ends, and you're meant to continue to grow as long as you're alive. So I hope that this has been a fun video to watch. I know I really love teaching about cycles. If you would like to know more about challenging cycle that you're going through, if you would like a reading, you can reach out to me through my website, tamarachilds.com, or more quickly, support at tamarachilds.com. Or if you see this on Facebook, just message me and I will try my best to get you in for an in-depth appointment to look at the transits and where you are, also the opportunities and that are available. It's really unbelievable how these transits reflect our consciousness. And it's just a very beautiful system for understanding yourself. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.